everyone. We'll call. Oh, are we okay with starting? Okay. We'll call the meeting of the Development Committee to order for October 18th. And I would ask if there's a motion to allow member Covert to speak remotely. There's a motion second. All is in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And my understanding is based on family emergency. Roll call, please.
Member Krajewski?
Here.
Member Covert?
Here.
Member Garcia?
Here.
Member Ozog?
Here.
Member Rutledge?
Here.
Chair Tornatori?
Here. And we have a quorum. I have nothing under chairman's remarks other than to welcome our guest once to another meeting. Brian, did you want to? Anybody doesn't know?
Everybody knows Sarah by now.
Knows Sarah by now.
Hi,
She's been giving golf lessons in the hall.
She's writing her notes there that the county board really does a lot of work. They've had all kinds of meetings today. So
Oh, good.
writing a good report.
Well, welcome again, Sarah. I have nothing else under chairman's remarks. Do we have any public comment?
No.
We have no public comment. We'll move on to approval of the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of Tuesday, October 4th.
So moved.
Second.
The motion is second. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Moving on to regulatory, I'll entertain a motion to approve PCP 291-22, a recommendation for contract purchase order to Safeville, Illinois, for professional services to perform building and plumbing plan reviews as well as building inspections on an as-needed basis. There's a motion and a second. Any questions, comments?
Just real quick, I just think that since we did switch over to that rate per hour, I think, Jim, if you have actual numbers, but I know it's a substantial reduction in what we were paying, and not we, because it's passed through the residents. So the residents have saved a substantial amount of money, probably at least 50%, if not more, basically going to the rate per hour versus the flat fees that we were using before. So it's saving residents money. I know it gets passed through. So.
Absolutely. Anything else? Okay, motion second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. We got item B. I'll entertain a motion to approve action item T1 2022. This is a text amendment to the DuPage County's ordinance, adding the DuPage County's ordinance, chapter 37, language relative to adult use cannabis business establishments. The CBA voted to approve this 5-1.
So moved. Second.
The motion is second. We all know this is what began here, moved to Finance Committee, was then sent to ZBA, now back here, and then we'll go to County Board presumably next week regarding the text amendment, which we are all familiar with. Paul, do you want to have anything you want to add or any questions of Paul regarding this? I'll get this. Okay. I want to do a roll call. I can do a roll call. Just give it.
Sure.
The nature of the vote.
Member Garcia?
Aye.
Member Rutledge?
Aye.
Member Krajewski?
Aye.
Member Covert?
Aye.
Member Ozog?
Aye.
Chair Tornatori?
Aye, and the motion carries. Moving on to item C, I'll entertain a motion to approve BCR 421-22, a resolution amending an intergovernmental agreement between the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County and the County of DuPage. There's a second. Some motion and a second. Jim, real briefly, do you want to just give us a synopsis of the intergovernmental agreement and why we're amending it?
Sure. So what this is we entered into an intergovernmental agreement with the Forest Preserve in 1998. And at that time, it was based on the Downstate Forest Preserve Act, I think it's called. It didn't really address home rule communities. So what we have found since then is if a lot of the forest preserves are incorporated and unincorporated, through the IGA, they're obligated to apply for building permits. But if they're in a community that's a home rule community, that actually kind of trumps the IGA. They have the ability to say permit through us. So what this really is the opportunity for us to kind of make the IGA match the practical application of it. Because right now, technically, they would be obligated to apply through us and through the community. And we don't want to make them do duplicate permitting. It'd be different code cycles, a lot of it at expense. Because they'd still be forced to meet the IGA and get a permit through us. So this is simply, they will notify the community. If the community takes jurisdiction, they'll tell us. We won't have anything to do with it. If the community doesn't, we can still permit it. They tend to only take the larger permits, which you would expect. But the smaller stuff will probably typically still keep coming through us. All the unincorporated permits still come through us.
When did the county board or the forest preserve spin off?
I think it was in 1992 when the law was passed, so around 94, and then the agenda was 98.
Okay, so this was done like right after the spin-off?
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, so I was just wondering the timing because I thought,
It's been a long time.
well, I thought maybe it was even after, so we could have done intergovernmental ourselves. So we did it as soon as they spun the board off, then they did the intergovernmental.
Yeah, so with the IGA, they don't have to meet our zoning ordinance. They do meet our building and stormwater.
So you need to come to get a permit when they do a bridge.
While this amendment would obviate the potential problems in the past, if the forest preserve in an incorporated area wanted to build something and that municipality's zoning was different than ours and there was a conflict, what did they do?
They would have to meet the zoning of if it's a home rule community, they'd have to meet their zoning.
And so the home rule community always trumped us no matter what?
It turns out they did. Initially, they weren't going through in that regard. At some point in the process, they decided that they were being challenged by home rule communities and they were kind of being forced to do the double permitting thing. And so we didn't want that happening. And so, yeah, they were forced to meet with the home rules, all their requirements as far as we're aware.
Well, I guess the double permitting, I understand, but what if the permitting was in conflict with one another?
Yeah, that's where the problem has arisen. We might be on a different code cycle than they're.
So did we just like walk away and say, okay, essentially?
Essentially, that's what's happening.
And now we're just formalizing.
We've identified a few occasions where, structures have been completely built. We didn't even know that they were being constructed because they were actually permitting through the home rule community and just going straight to them and not coming through us.
I mean, I think it's obviously the more practical thing to do. We can't, it's in their community, but makes sense.
Do we still have that issue with stormwater? Well, home rule community could be more stringent than our county stormwater. And
yeah, it could be if they were a full waiver community.
Because that, I mean, it seems like that would be an issue too with regards to that, especially in the incorporated forest preserves, because stormwater is a big issue that some of these municipalities use.
Member Rosa.
Off the top of your head, how many home rule communities are we talking about?
I'm not sure. Is it 19, Paul? Do you know?
There's 17 or 19.
Willowbrook was just recent.
I know, I
Find
was
out
trying to
for you.
Google that, but that's about what we're talking about.
Everybody over 25,000 plus the ones that gave to Warrenville, Willowbrook.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions on the amendment? Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Do we have any old business? Do we have any new business? None. Objection, we're adjourned. Thank you all.